For those that have followed the channel for the last decade or so, I'm always looking for interesting projects. And we've done a lot of boat projects over that time, as well as a lot of workshop stuff and a lot of other cool things, including the 67 Glasstron here. I've always kind of kept my eye out for an old tinny that was in real restorable condition. And as the years go by, more and more of these get beat up and the paperwork gets lost. So when I came across this and had the documentation with it and it wasn't too messed up, I thought this would be a lot of fun to get into. This is a 1959 Starcraft Super Constellation, and it's about 16 feet long. The seats inside, I've got a few of the templates or a few of the old seats that I can use for templates to recreate those. We've got our original steering wheel, which is awesome. We've got some original hardware on here. I don't know if I'm going to try to restore this stuff or replace it. It's pretty beat up, but the boat is 65 years old. The thing that's really interesting is this windshield is in phenomenal shape. We do have one little crack here, but other than that, again, this is in incredible shape for a windshield that's that old. So that should be kind of fun to get back into and clean up. One of the first things to do is going to be to take the paint off. And I think this has been painted a few different times because I took a little paint thinner the other day just to see. And I believe this was white underneath of here, underneath this blue and some of the yellow. So we've got at least two paints on there, maybe some others. I don't know. We'll see when we get into it. The previous owner said that it doesn't leak, which is pretty cool if that is indeed the case. What we'll probably do is go over all of these rivets with some glove it, some epoxy mixture, just to make sure that that's tight. But we'll go from there. The dash here, just like we did on the Glasstron on some of the other videos, chances are we'll cover this with some real pretty veneer of some sort. I've got a few different samples, a few different options to kind of cover this and just make this look really nice. The steering wheel is pretty much intact. We definitely have cracks and some splits here, but we can epoxy that and smooth those over and give this a new paint job. But it's really cool to have the original steering wheel on this. I think that's really, really awesome. For the back of the boat, this is the original transom. And it looks a little beat up, but there's no rot on here. This is really, really, really solid. What we're going to do, because I want to use the Propulsion Navy 6 on this, is we're going to fill in this cutout here. I've had this covered just to keep this even more dry. But we're going to fill this in so that our transom goes completely across, so that the Navy 6 seats nice and deep. And because this was the Super Constellation, there's a whole lot of beefed up transom brackets in the back. And I believe this thing was rated to hold a 50 horsepower motor. The boat weighs less than 300 pounds, and I can only imagine how fast that would be with a 50 on the back. One of the things we're going to try with this is we've got our ePropulsion Navy 6 obviously on the Glasstron here. There's a video of us using that, which is a lot of fun. I am really curious to see how that works on the Constellation here on the Starcraft. I've seen some videos of folks that have had this Navy 6 on aluminum boats that are similar in weight and size to this one, and they're in the 12 to 14 mile an hour zone. And I'm guessing plane speed is somewhere around 8 or 9. So we'll see. The flat bottom also helps. That'll give us some lift. The Glasstron is a deep V. And the weight difference between these two, again, this weighs under 300 pounds. And the Glasstron is probably pushing 800 at this point, maybe a little bit more, because the transom in the Glasstron is definitely wet, and I think some of our stringers in there are wet as well, and those are two things we don't have in here. We will need to design a battery bank system in the rear section here and figure out how we're going to work work our wiring and our controls. It's cool that we've got a bracket here, and actually when I bought this it still had the Johnson controls, because there was a big Johnson on the back. Not when I bought it, but at some point there was. And it's cool that we've got the steering cables, and they're in pretty good shape. So we're going to reuse those steering connections and just the old kind of shaft steering underneath the here, which can be more responsive than some of the Teleflex stuff that I've played with, especially with these springs in the back. And the hardware that is attached here is also in pretty good shape, so I think that'll be fun to play with. The trailer is in very usable condition. It's not in phenomenal condition, but it's in very usable condition. The person that I bought it from put some new wheels on it and repacked the bearings and did a few support things. I put the wheel on the front. That's a Harbor Freight special there, just so I could kind of push it around more easily. And we'll probably replace the tongue as well. That 1 7/8 inch hitch in the front is kind of warped, so we'll probably cut that off, put a new one on. But it's a cute little trailer, and you really obviously can't feel this behind the truck because it is so light. And it's also, of course, very easy to move around, which is a lot of fun. The Glastron trailer is quite a bit heavier to push around, but this guy here, we can just move this anywhere we want. Another thing that grabbed my attention on this is, despite the paint job, which is not what I want to stick with, it's in really good shape. We don't have big dings, we don't have dents, we don't have lots of damaged areas. I haven't found any corrosion anywhere under here. I've been looking all around, and even though they're aluminum, there can be corrosion points, and I just haven't seen any anywhere. I think this is probably where the stern light was, so we'll have to put a new light in at that point. But I think it'll be fun to play with. So stick around in the coming weeks. We'll kind of play with this project and go from there. The front seats, I've got some sketches in mind on how I want those arranged. We've even got backup oar locks here, which is good, I guess, if you're playing with electric stuff. And our supports there for our seat supports here. Originally, based on the photos I've seen online and the templates, or the pieces in here that I'll use for templates, there was kind of a two-part section here. So it kind of went across and went down, and there was a space between so you could walk from the front to the back. And then it came back up on the other side too. So, 1959 Starcraft Super Constellation, 16 feet and a little under 300 pounds. So this should be fun. I do have some citrus strip here. I'm going to start rubbing that on a little bit and see how easily we can take some of this paint off. I think since it came off so easily with the turpentine that it probably will come off pretty well. And then the decisions to make are to repaint it, or to keep it shiny, or to do two-tone. I don't know. Still playing. Thanks very much for taking a look. The Starcraft is our next project, but I always have lots of things on deck, lots of things I'm working on. I found these 2 solar panels on Facebook Marketplace, and the deal was too good to pass up. These are brand new. We still have our cardboard corners on here. And combined, these panels are 730 watts and about 80 volts. So should be a nice fit for charging up our lithium iron phosphate batteries for the boat. And I think that would be really cool to use the sun to charge up our batteries, to play with our electric motor on our 65-year-old aluminum boat. I think that'll be fun.